Well, the Cosmere has come to the silver screen, baby, and I want to know, should it be animated or live action? Oh my gosh. Now to be clear, I am a fan of animated and live action properties, but we need to determine a winner, and how are we going to do that? Well, with a good old-fashioned fight to the death. These two epic art forms will be pitted against one another in 5 battles to determine who is worthy of becoming the ultimate Cosmere adaptation. Round 1, we're going to talk about the budgets.
I'm so excited!
Now, whenever a studio is going to greenlight a project, they really want to know how much it's going to cost them.
What did it cost?
Everything.
The more expensive the budget, the less likely they are to actually want to move forward with the project. Now, live action tends to cost a lot more because you have to build the sets, you have to have all the employees on site, you're going to need costume designers, you're going to need makeup artists, cinematographers, and all of that really starts to add up. And then on top of it, you need to add all the CGI and the back work after everything is shot. An animated movie will have a smaller staff, so it won't cost them as much, and they won't have to build sets and pay all these other design and props people. Now, to be fair, recently Brandon did say that he's been offered some massive budgets for these movies and TV shows.
The budgets that people are discussing for Stormlight live action, if I do it, would make it so that we can do these things.
So it really doesn't look like he's in danger of having one of his projects canceled because it's going to cost too much. But when you have a lower budget, you don't need to get as many people to come into the theater to watch the movie or to start streaming the show in order to make a profit back on what you spent. And if the studio ends up making a profit, well then Sanderson's a proven commodity and they'll want to make more Cosmere adaptations, which is a good thing for all of us.
Hells yeah.
So even though theoretically Brandon's going to have a really big budget for this adaptation, you got to give the win to animation here because it's going to be less expensive in general. Before we jump into round 2, this video has been in the works for over a month, so if you're enjoying it, please hit the like button. Round 2 of this battle is also going to come down to money as we examine the box office potential of these 2 adaptations. Is this one even a competition?
Absolutely, but not really.
Live action movies constantly outperform animated movies. Now, if you'll just look this way, you'll see a list of the top 25 highest grossing movies of all time. Now, if you look even closer, you might notice that only 4 of them are animated.
Those are rookie numbers.
Sure, you've got your odd outlier like Frozen that makes $1 billion. Ultimately, right now, live action just has a better ability to get butts and seats at the movie theater or to get people to check out a show on streaming when they're at home. Now, you're probably thinking, Gary, it doesn't need to make $1 billion. And you're right. But the more money it makes, you know they're going to make more films and TV shows. Now, before we fight it out in round 3, just remember there's a secret message in this video. If you watch carefully, you'll find it. Round 3 of this battle comes down to the production timeline. This one is also pretty straightforward. The amount of time it can take to make a great animated film can be 3 to 6 years if you're looking for something like Into the Spider-Verse. The amount of time it takes to film a live action movie is only a couple of months, and then you add on another 6, 7, 8 months for visual effects, depending on how visual effect heavy it is. There's something special about knowing that it's real. Once you take into consideration the editing and approval processes, you're probably looking at a total of 2 to 3 years for a live action film.
I am impressed.
Now you might be wondering, why does this matter? And I will concede that this doesn't have a huge effect on the immediate adaptation at hand, but I'm looking forward towards the future MCU-like Cosmere. Everyone seems to think that the best way to get a good adaptation of the Cosmere is to have Brandon Sanderson involved.
That's true,
Okay.
that's true, that's true. No, you're right.
Well, he's only 46, so if we want him to be able to see the entire Cosmere adapted someday, they need to get through these fairly quickly. We're currently expecting the Cosmere to have 30, maybe 40 books when it's all completed.
So many.
If we want to see the entire Cosmere adapted with Brandon at the helm, we're going to need to get through these fairly quickly. And the best way they're going to do that is with live action properties. Quick side note, I just want to acknowledge that Brandon Sanderson did hire Dan Wells to help him start writing more books in the Cosmere, so he is taking on the help that he's going to need to make sure that he's able to do everything that he's trying to do. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff, which is which medium would be better able to be true to the stories. These worlds are just completely fantastic. If you look at a planet like Scadrial and Mistborn, you've got a planet that's full of volcanoes shooting ash into the air, where the ash just builds up all the time in all these streets. It's a very old city. That'd be a very difficult world to render in live action. Even worse would be Roshar from the Way of Kings, where you've got these giant high storms that are coming through all the time. You've got the shard bearers with their shard plate and shard blades. You're gonna have the Spren that are everywhere. Whenever anyone has any kind of emotion, you've got 5 different Spren showing up. Now, if you really want that accuracy, animation is going to be the way to go. You've also got a ton of different species, all with their own unique looks. Even Kaladin is supposed to be about 7 feet tall. Now, that's not a super important characteristic, but if you wanted to be true to the books, you'd have a really hard time finding a 7-foot actor that has the look of Kaladin, that has the physicality of Kaladin, and has the acting chops to pull off the emotional turmoil that he's going throughout these books.
Perhaps you're right.
Being 7 feet tall isn't critical to the storyline, but if you're looking to be as accurate as possible to the books, animation just allows you to do that a lot more. And with him, it is possible that they could maybe do some perspective shots like they did in Lord of the Rings with the hobbits. That entails a lot of planning and a lot of prep work to get those shots ready beforehand. The other detail is that you've got a bunch of immortal characters in these books. Brandon Sanderson isn't going to write Hoyd's backstory for another couple of decades, so if we were to cast someone to play Hoyd now, eventually when we do get to a Dragonsteel adaptation, which is Hoyd's backstory, you would either need to DH the actor that we cast, or we would need to recast him. If you're working with animation, that doesn't become a problem. You just use the same voice actor and you keep him looking relatively the same. So for this category, I really have to give the nod to animation. All right, so we're tied 2-2 in this fight.
Ooh, close game, close game.
But before we go on to that 5th and final round, here's that secret message I promised. Now, if you're going to want to hear this secret message, you're going to need to go to the top right-hand corner and click on Settings. Then scroll down to Playback Speed. Select half speed, and then you'll be able to understand everything I'm saying. All right, so secret message in 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you so much for being here. This secret message is a challenge and a reward. So I'm going to challenge you to go to the comments and write "Honor is dead." No context, don't include what this message is about. And if any of you will write "Honor is dead" in the comments, I will write "Honor is dead" 50 feet wide. There's a little high school for me. I will take a scene around chalk and write out "Honor is dead" 50 feet wide. I'm even going to the possibility of writing a Rome so that I can show all you a bird's eye view of a fine creation. So if this is something you want to see, go to the comments and write "Honor is dead." Welcome to the 5th and final round of this battle, the quality. Now, in round 4, we were talking about the accuracy of the world and being able to be true to the books. So some of you might be wondering, well, if they're more true to the books, won't that mean that the quality's better?
Thank you for asking.
To an extent, yes, but there are some other aspects to quality that I really want to address. Now, I might get a lot of hate for this, but I personally think that live action has a much higher potential for the level of quality than animation does.
Please don't hurt me.
Now, hear me out. The reason for that is that sometimes knowing something is done in real life is just more impressive than knowing it was made in CGI or animated. When Christopher Nolan flipped that truck in The Dark Knight, that was magical because you knew it was real. If that had been flipped in an animation, you would have been like, okay, there's a fake truck that's being flipped. That speaks a lot to the Mission Impossible movies and the stunts that Tom Cruise puts himself through.
Whoa, 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 too much, too much.
Shit.
Go up. Terrain.
If you look at that one-take fight scene in Creed, it's incredible. One of the big factors that makes it so impressive is that people had to put a lot of time and effort into planning and meticulously getting all the details just right, where the camera needs to be, where the actors need to be, in order to get a beautiful one-take shot. If that shot had been done in animation, it would have been a cool shot, but it's not as difficult to do because you don't have to do it live. So because of that, I just don't get the same thrill when it's done on animation. The other point I want to touch on is acting. Now, I get it, animation actors only have one tool to use, and that's their voice. So they tend to be very good at using their voice.
I only wanted to help. I only wanted to help. I only wanted to help.
I told you to stay away.
However, I wouldn't say that the top actors for animated series are better at emoting with their voices than the top actors for live action.
I have never been more alone. I have nothing. No one. All right, it's all gone.
I also think you just can't replace an actor who is in the zone and you're able to connect with on a human level.
And you're just embarrassed because I was like this amazing thing, like your special creation or something, and you don't like who I am now.
Yeah, who are you, Nick?
This is me, Dad. Here, this is who I am.
Maybe someday animators will be skilled enough to bring across the raw emotion that some actors are able to achieve, but I don't think we've reached that day. Don't get me wrong, I think that there's some great animated acting out there, but if you truly want to capture the human experience of heartbreak and sorrow and joy, your best bet is going to be going with a very skilled actor. So with that, I have to give the ultimate win to live action. Now, I know there's probably going to be a lot of you who don't agree with me. To which, all I can say is,
Who cares?
I can already see some of you in the comment section writing out paragraphs about why I'm wrong on certain details. But you know what? I welcome it. If you're able to share some of your perspective with me and give me a greater appreciation for animation, then I think we both win. I am so incredibly excited for this Cosmere adaptation. Whether it's animated or live action, I'm gonna be there front in line. Will you be?